Welcome back to another week in review where I go over every single game from Thursday to Sunday. I have at least two key takes in each of them, things that we learned can take away so we can better project what is coming next as we get into the later parts of the fantasy football season. As a friendly reminder, Relentless Press has content dropping Monday, my waiver wire targets, which drop at about 5:30 p.m., to Saturday when I have my updated rankings. In shorts, I do every single position at the end of the week based on what information that we got during the middle of it to help give you guys the most clear case on who to start right up until kickoff. If you guys have any questions on that, please drop them down below. I love the engagement. We've seen a big increase in that over the last couple weeks. Let's keep that going. I get to every single question that I receive. I usually give a pretty detailed answer on them to try to let you guys know what exactly I'm thinking and why I'm giving you the advice that I am. I want to be able to support you. I cannot do that if you're not throwing questions down below for me. Dropping a like on the video is always very appreciated. It helps me out a ton. Get the channel out to maybe those who haven't seen it yet. And if you have not done it yet, what are we doing here, people? Please subscribe to the channel. Means the world to me, helps me out so very much. And now that I have sold you the goods, let's get into this Relentless Rundown. We're gonna start with the Thursday night game, the Saints giving it away against the Cardinals. We'll start on the Saints side of things because it was not pretty for Andy Dalton. He actually looked okay for most of this game, but he had back-to-back pick sixes, which completely destroyed any chance the Saints had at winning, really took the wind out of their sails. Now, that being said, Chris Olave, he is the real deal. He could be a top 15 wideout for the rest of the season. All this guy does is produce. Jarvis Landry has been in and out, not consistent even when he has played. Michael Thomas, who knows if he's gonna play football again. Olave looks completely comfortable as the featured wide receiver one in this offense. On the Saints defense side of things, they are bad. I thought that it was maybe gonna turn around for them. That does not seem to be the case. They might become a defense that we actually target with our playmakers instead of trying to avoid. They cannot stop the run for the life of them. On the Cardinals side of things, I think a lot of hope that we can pull from this game for Arizona. That offense is going to be okay now that Nuke is back. He was a monster difference maker here. Not just what he did statistically with 10 catches and 103 yards, but also because of what he does to the defense, having to shift around to try to account for him. I think that the Arizona offense from here just takes off. Let's get to the Panthers game. Biggest surprise of the week. Without a doubt, they shock the Bucs 21-3. For the Panthers side of things, what we saw is that maybe we can hope on DJ Moore a little bit. He is going to be the guy getting the ball in the passing game. He saw 10 targets in this one, I believe. So he might enter that weekly consideration as a flex piece after being completely absent for probably the last 3 or 4. To the Tampa side of things, their offense is broken. There's really no way around it anymore. The offensive line is so poor that there's no running game for Tampa, and it makes them very easy to defend. Obviously, the Panthers showcased this in spades. Brady does not look like the same guy who's just gonna sling it around 50 times a game and find success. So I think stock down across the board for Tampa Bay. The Bengals blow out the Falcons 35-17. Cincinnati is back. I told you that the turnaround would be coming. I didn't know that it was gonna be this swift and with this much intensity, but they absolutely dominated from start to finish in this game when they have their full complement of playmakers, which has not been too often thus far. But when T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase, and Joe Mixon are all at it, can't even forget Hayden Hurst, who's had a decent season, the Bengals are gonna be very hard to stop. Stock up across the board for them. The Falcons, they showed me that even when they are trailing, and trailing big, might I add, they are not gonna throw the football. They would rather lose a game running it down your throat, then attempt to go to the air and come back. They were getting demolished in this game pretty much from the get-go. And they threw 13 passes here. 13. It is really mind-boggling to me that they trust Marcus Mariota so little. Drake London, not the beneficiary I thought. The game happened exactly as I thought it was going to, with the Falcons falling behind early. Didn't matter for London. He saw one total target in the game. You hate to see it. The Cowboys smoke the Lions. Dak eased in on this one. He was really not asked to do a whole lot. He was not explosive in his first game back. And I guess more or less that should have been expected. 19 out of 25, a little over 200 yards. He had one touchdown. The running game seems to be the bread and the butter of Dallas. Still, that might shift a little bit as Dak gets more comfortable. But with the way that Tony Pollard especially is running, I'm not sure why you would move away from that. The Lions are going to lion, and Goff is going to Goff. The Detroit Lions looked nothing like they did early on in the season when we thought, hey, even if their defense is putrid, their offense is going to put up points and is a safe bet for us in fantasy land. After the New England game and then this one, I think we have to reevaluate where we see the Lions, and they are not the smash plays that we might have thought. The Titans overpower the Colts. Biggest storyline coming out of this one is that Matt Ryan is done. He might not play another snap in the NFL. He has officially been benched for Sam Ehlinger. There was an injury, but Frank Wright said that that was not the reason. Regardless, injury or not, Matt Ryan was going to be riding the pine. So I think this is a bad sign. As poor as Matt Ryan has been, I think it is still a bad sign for the playmakers here. Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman, who we both thought were going to be studs at their position. They've kind of settled into that high-end running back 2, wide receiver 2 positioning. I think if you can sell them off at that price, might not be such a bad idea, because I do not expect the Colts offense to do much of anything moving forward. They're going to be decent guys, so I'm not giving away JT or Pittman. But if you can sell them at current cost, might be something to consider. For the Titans, it was all about Derrick Henry doing what he does once again. We've come to expect it at this point. Looks like I was wrong on the hill that he was going to slide down. He has been just fine and will continue to be the centerpiece of this offense. Quick note, if Treylon Burks is out there and available, he should be coming off of IR soon and be ready to play. If he is, it might not be the worst decision as a speculative ad to get him on your roster. The Titans obviously thought high of him to draft him where they did, and so he might see his usage increase week in and week out moving forward. The Commanders, in probably my favorite game of the week, especially as a Vikings fan, being on a bye, just being able to chill and enjoy the 5-1 record. My biggest piece that I wanted from the week was for the Packers to lose the game to Washington. I thought there was maybe a 5% chance of that happening, and even as the game is going on, I'm thinking the Packers are going to come back. This Packers offense is an absolute dumpster fire. There is nothing going right in Green Bay right now. As a fantasy owner, you have to be a little bit scared and worried. As a Vikings fan, you loved every second of it. For the Washington side of things, this offense is better with Bud Liedeke at the helm. Taylor Heineke is not anything special, but when he is consistently delivering balls, like he was for most of this game outside of that really bad interception, he helps this offense out tremendously, and I don't think there's going to be the same amount of costly critical errors that we were seeing from Carson Wentz. So I think the Commanders team is better with Bud Liedeke there. Terry McLaurin's stock is up because he's got a good connection, and Brian Robinson is getting workhorse numbers here, guys. 20 carries, 2 targets in the passing game. He had 86 total yards. He is probably capped as far as his upside because the offense isn't anything special here. But when those kind of looks are being given to you, you're gonna find ways to produce. He has, and I think that he is a solid addition if you were able to pick him up a couple weeks ago. That will carry on for the rest of the season. The Giants outlast the Jags 23-17. I was telling you, it was coming. I was begging for you to make a move. So if you did, and Travis Etienne is on your roster, congratulations, the season is here. J-Rob now dealing with some knee issues. It is over. Etienne had 15 touches, 119 total yards. He had a score as well. He is the guy and is going to be a high upside RB2 for the foreseeable future. For the Giants, Daniel Jones. He is that dude. If you are needing a bye week replacement, he's not anything special in real life. Let's not get it twisted here. But if you guys have a quarterback on bye, you're looking at another option, or if you need a secondary option in 2 quarterback or super flex, you could do a heck of a lot worse than Jones. He's averaging nearly 50 yards rushing per game this year, and he's got 6 touchdowns and a gooser. No picks in the last 4 games. And even better yet, the next 4 weeks, there's a bye sprinkled in here. He gets Seattle, he gets Houston, and he gets Detroit. If he is available and you need another quarterback option, go get him right now. The Browns fall to the Ravens. Big buy opportunity here though. Go and get yourselves Lamar Jackson. 4 straight games now where he's had kind of decent, but certainly not his type of number performances. He has never been cheaper than he will be after this week. So go and get him while you still can. I think the price that you have to pay now, while probably still steep, will be worth it by the time we get to the fantasy playoffs. Gus Edwards comes out of nowhere here, straight off of IR and into fantasy stardom. He had 66 yards and a pair of scores, but not so fast. I would say that this Baltimore Ravens backfield will be a frustrating one for owners, probably the rest of the season. Even with this performance from Edwards, it might be Kenyon Drake again last week. And this one, he had 11 carries for 5 yards after averaging 12 yards a carry last week. So we don't exactly know week in and week out who is going to produce for Baltimore's backfield, but they are still valuable pieces you want on your roster. For Cleveland, the loss of David Njoku, right now they're saying 2 to 5 weeks, pretty wide range of outcomes for him to return from an injury. That, I think, hurts this offense more than people might realize. Just the threat of having him available was big for the defense to have to account for. With him being down, it's just really Amari Cooper now in the passing game. Defenses are going to be able to double team him far more easily. And that, I think, makes it a downgrade across the board, if only slightly, for the Browns offense. The Jets punked the Broncos 16-9. Really heartbreaking news for New York. Breece Hall, his glorious start and breakout has come to an abrupt halt. Prayers out to him and his family. He will miss the rest of a season with that MCL injury. Absolutely gut-wrenching. What this does is open up an opportunity for Michael Carter. He's probably not available in your leagues, but if he is, gotta be a priority ad for you. He will most likely take over more or less a workhorse role here. I think that Ty Johnson is a little bit involved, but for now, I am just keeping Carter as a high-end flex until we see more from him. He was really successful in spurts last year when he got the majority of touches. So I do think, especially with how the Jets are playing, there is some upside for Carter. And for Denver's backfield, because we gotta talk about that chaos, I'm not sure there's anyone here that you can feel comfortable starting. This week, Melvin Gordon took back the starting job, didn't do a whole lot with it, averaged 3 yards a carry on 11 of them, and Latavius Murray averaged 3 yards a carry, but he did get that touchdown. Mike Boone got injured, so that shortens the amount of touches between maybe just 2 guys now. But with Denver's offense looking so brutal, even when Russell Wilson returns, which could be as early as this week, I am probably avoiding the Denver backs at this point. The Raiders demolish the Texans, and it was all about Josh Jacobs. I said he had RB1 overall potential, and he showcased that here. He does, however, have a brutal schedule down the stretch in the fantasy playoffs. Something we have to consider and need to be doing that now. If you can sell him super high right now for another legit top 5 back. So I'm talking Austin Eckler, Saquon Barkley, maybe Henry as well. If I'm not getting one of those guys, I am holding on to Jacobs and hoping that this continues. But if I can get one of those guys, I am making that swap. But if I can get one of those 3 guys, I am making that swap. He also has New Orleans, and Jacksonville over the next 2 weeks, so that will be fun for him. Davis Mills for Houston side paid off as a sleeper call for me last week. He had over 300 yards and a pair of scores, but in the receiving game, it was nothing special for anybody. Brandon Cooks for me is no longer anything more than a consideration for a flex. The targets have not been there. The production certainly has not been there. He had just 5 targets in this game. He's not a deep threat, hasn't been able to score any touchdowns either. So he has gone down significantly from where I had him 3, maybe 4 weeks ago. The Seahawks spanked the Chargers 37-23. We know that Ken Walker is legit. I'm not sure that that surprised anyone. The question now becomes, are these Seahawks? Because they have looked pretty good over the last couple of weeks. I think they might be in for some issues without DK Metcalf. And if that is a longer term injury, the outlook for this team changes. But in his stead, I think Marquise Goodwin is a good sleeper here. 2 touchdowns in this game, and in deeper leagues, even if Metcalf comes back, he might have some value, but especially if Metcalf is not there, Goodwin needs to be on your radar. The Chargers continue to remain a mystery. We don't know what we're getting from them from 1 week to the next. The Mike Williams loss here, I think, is big for this offense, and that ankle injury did not look good. I hope it is not long-term, but just by seeing it live, it's probably going to be a multi-week thing for him, which means that I love DeAndre Carter and Joshua Palmer as adds this week. Both of them are likely available. I think they each have under a 40% roster percentage. So if you can pick them up with Keenan Allen struggling to get on the field with that hammy injury, I kept him out of my rankings this week for the reason that we saw. He was basically a decoy in the first half, and I'm not even sure if he got onto the field in the second half. But Carter, Palmer are both going to be good options. They should see plenty of opportunities depending on what happens with the health of the other receivers. The Chiefs continue to roll. They crushed the Chargers, put up a 40-burger on them. Isaiah Pacheco got the starting nod in this game. It was announced probably a couple hours before kickoff. Now, he did see the majority of the touches, but of course it was Clyde Edwards-Helaire getting in the end zone and stealing the touchdown. It is going to be hard to trust these guys for the rest of the season, most likely, but one of these backs is probably also going to score a touchdown, so they have flex appeal for that reason alone. Juju Smith-Schuster has now 2 games in a row where he's put up a really strong performance. I had him as a sell last week, and I tell you what, if you kept him, that's great for you. You can now sell him higher. I am still not convinced, and I am trying to move him probably for a decent wide receiver too after this game. Speaking of my buy sell, George Kittle was on there as a buy last week. That worked out well. He had a monster game in this one, and I think it's just more of what's going to be coming for the rest of the season as long as the tackle situation remains healthy for San Francisco. They got Williams back, they got McGlinchey back, and it made all the difference in the world. CMC as well was active from the get-go. People thought he might get a reduced workload. He certainly did, but he still racked up 10 touches, 62 yards. You love that efficiency. I think he is going to ball in this offense. The final game was Sunday night. The Dolphins are able to hang on against the Steelers. I don't know if we learned this, but maybe just confirmed it. Kenny Pickett is not ready to start at this level. Now, he did some good things, but he had 3 picks yet again, and Pittsburgh's offense is going to be bad more often than not. Najee Harris, Deontay Johnson, RIP for you guys. You might be decent here in spurts, but unless there's a massive turnaround, it's going to be hard to start Pittsburgh offensive playmakers with any confidence. For Miami, that running game might just go through Raheem Mostert for real this time. He's now had 4 straight games with over 15 touches, and he's been really good in 2 out of his last 3. I think we now have to consider him as a decent RB2 option each and every week while the touches remain. And that is everything for the week in review. Really hope you guys enjoyed this content. Hope you learned something. There was a lot of great valuable information that we can take away from this week and use to better our teams and our decisions moving forward. Any questions, please drop them down below. I love to be able to help you out. Make sure you keep an eye out for all of the great content that Relentless Press has coming each and every day. If you don't like the video, what's wrong with you? And if you do not subscribe to the channel, you might miss some of that. This is Relentless Press. I'm your host, Abrium Opats, and I will see you next time.